It's 3 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling. Your heart is thumping like a drum against your ribs. Your mind is a whirlwind, replaying every mistake you've ever made and pre-playing every disaster that could possibly happen tomorrow. You feel completely and physically stressed out. We've all been there. It's a horrible feeling. What if I told you that in that moment, there's an invisible war being fought inside your body between two kinds of stress? And what if the secret weapon in that war wasn't a pill or a technique, but something far more ancient? Your faith. We're talking about prayer, spirituality, and a connection to something bigger than yourself. People have leaned on these beliefs for millennia, but can they actually shield your body on a chemical level while your mind is still in a state of panic? Or is it just a feeling? That is the mystery we are about to unravel. Hello, you beautiful curious minds, and welcome to Summary Thought, the place where we take dense, complicated research and transform it into stories that will blow your mind. Today, we are diving headfirst into a piece of research that is so fascinating, so counterintuitive, it might just change the way you think about stress, faith, and the secret conversations happening inside your own body. The paper is called Religious Coping is Differentially Associated with Physiological and Subjective Distress Indicators, Comparing Cortisol and Self-Report Patterns, and the lead author is Allison Haney. Now, don't let that title scare you away. I promise you we are going to unpack this thing not like a science textbook, but like an edge-of-your-seat mystery novel. Here's the incredible journey we're going on today. First, we're going to meet the two villains of our story, the loud, obnoxious stress you feel versus the silent, deadly stress that's secretly wrecking your body. Then, we're going to drop into a real-life pressure cooker, following students through an exam that could define their entire future. And here's the core of our investigation. We're going to see what happens when these students use one of the most ancient and powerful tools known to humankind to cope, their faith and spiritual beliefs. Can prayer and a connection to a higher power actually serve as a shield against modern stress? The answer is the final piece of our story, and it's a mind-bending plot twist found in the scientific data, revealing a secret connection between belief and our biology that will absolutely change the way you see the power of the human spirit. This isn't just science. This is a story about the hidden architecture of human resilience. So grab a drink, get comfortable, because you are listening to Summary Thought, and you are not going to want to miss a single second of this. Part 1. Meet the villains, the loud monster and the silent assassin. Before we get to the main event, you need to understand that when we talk about stress, we're actually talking about two completely different things. Think of them as two villains in our story. The first villain is the loud monster. This is the one you know well. It lives in your head. It's the voice of anxiety, the feeling of being overwhelmed, the worry that keeps you up at night. It's loud, it's obnoxious, and it's constantly telling you that you're not good enough or that the world is about to end. This is what scientists call subjective distress. It's your personal, emotional feeling of being stressed out. For a long time, we thought this was the only villain that mattered. If you felt stressed, you were stressed. Simple. But there's a second villain. This one is far more dangerous, because it's a silent assassin. This villain doesn't live in your feelings. It lives in your blood. Its real name is cortisol. Now, cortisol isn't always a bad guy. In fact, think of it as your body's own emergency superhero. Imagine you're a caveman and a saber-toothed tiger jumps out from behind a rock. Boom. Your brain hits the big red panic button, and your body is flooded with cortisol. It jacks you up with energy, sharpens your focus, and gets you ready to either fight that tiger or run for your life. In a short-term crisis, cortisol is your best friend. It's the reason humanity survived. Here's the problem with modern life. The saber-toothed tiger never goes away. The tiger is now your horrible boss, your stack of bills, that toxic relationship, or in the case of our story, a monster exam. Because the threat feels constant, your brain never stops mashing that big red panic button. The cortisol, the silent assassin, is flowing through you all day, every day. And a superhero that's always on duty eventually gets tired and starts breaking things. Chronically high cortisol can demolish your immune system, make you gain weight, mess with your memory, and put you on the fast track to heart disease and depression. It's a silent killer that attacks your body from the inside out, all while you might just think you're having a tough week. Scientists have discovered that in a healthy person, cortisol has a natural daily rhythm. You get a big burst in the morning to wake you up. Think of it as a rocket launch to get your day started. Then, throughout the day, the rocket should slowly and steadily come back down to Earth, reaching its lowest point at night, so you can sleep. A steep, fast return to Earth is a sign of a healthy, resilient body that knows how to turn the alarm off. A system that stays in high orbit all day is a system in trouble. So we have the loud monster in your head and the silent assassin in your body. This groundbreaking study put both of them under a microscope at the same time. The results are going to shock you. Part 2, the experiment. Welcome to the pressure cooker. Okay, so if you want to study real raw human stress, where do you go? You find a group of people who are willingly walking into a lion's den. And that's where our story finds its main characters, 246 pre-med students. These aren't just any students. These are brilliant, ambitious young people whose entire dream of becoming a doctor hinges on them acing incredibly difficult science exams. The pressure is suffocating. It's the perfect real-world laboratory to study stress. The research team, led by Allison Haney, followed these students during the intense weeks leading up to a major exam and for a little while after. To track the first villain, the loud monster in their heads, they had the students keep a daily diary. Every morning and every evening, the students log their feelings. How hopeless are you feeling right now? How uneasy? How anxious? This gave the scientists a direct feed into the students' emotional turmoil. But to catch the second villain, the silent assassin, they had to go deeper. They took saliva samples from a smaller group of these students 4 times a day. Why saliva? Because it allows you to measure cortisol levels precisely. It's like they were tapping into the body's secret communication channel. With this data, they could see exactly what the silent assassin was doing. Was it raging all day long? Or was the body's alarm system managing to calm down? Finally, there was one more crucial piece of the puzzle. The scientists wanted to know how these students were coping. Specifically, they were interested in something called religious coping. At the start of the study, they asked the students questions like, how often do you seek God's help when you're dealing with stress? This isn't about just checking a box that says, I'm religious. It's about the action of turning to faith as a tool, as a source of strength, in the middle of a crisis. So, the scene is set. We have our heroes, the stressed-out students. We have our 2 villains, the loud monster of feelings and the silent assassin of cortisol. And we have our potential secret weapon, religious coping. But to understand who is actually using this weapon, the scientists knew they had to dig deeper than a simple yes or no on a form. It wasn't about which church a student belonged to, but what they did when the walls closed in. At the very start, they gave each student a personal gauge, asking them to rate statements like, I seek God's help. This created a spectrum. On one end were the students who almost never turned to faith as a tool, and on the other were those who used it frequently as a source of strength. With this crucial information, the scientists gathered the rest of the data, from the tear-stained diary entries to the chemical codes hidden in the saliva. They were ready to find out. What difference, if any, did wielding this weapon make in the high-stakes battle? Part 3, the plot twist that changes everything. The researchers crunched the numbers, and the first results came in. They looked at the diaries first. They looked at the data from the loud monster, the students' self-reported feelings of anxiety and distress. They compared the students who used a lot of religious coping to those who didn't. And they found absolutely nothing. I'm not kidding. It was a complete blank. The students who were praying, who were turning to their faith for support, felt just as stressed out, just as anxious, and just as miserable as the students who weren't. Their diary entries were filled with just as much worry. If you were only looking at this data, you would have to conclude that for these students, religious coping was a total failure. It wasn't making them feel any better. It was like bringing a water pistol to a gunfight. Imagine being one of those students. You're praying for peace, for strength, but you still feel like a nervous wreck. You'd probably think it wasn't working. This is what the data seemed to be screaming. But then they looked at the other set of data. They opened the files on the silent assassin. They looked at the secret messages the body was sending through the cortisol in the saliva. And the story completely flipped on its head. What they discovered was astonishing. In the incredibly stressful period before the exam, the students who reported using more religious coping had a fundamentally healthier physical stress response. Their bodies were handling the pressure in a dramatically different way. While their feelings were in turmoil, their internal chemistry was not. Specifically, their daily cortisol rhythm was much more adaptive. After the big rocket launch of cortisol in the morning, their levels came back down to earth steeper and faster throughout the day. Let's be crystal clear about what this means. Their body's alarm system was better at shutting itself off. Even though their minds were still racing with thoughts about the exam, their bodies were able to physically calm down more efficiently. Think of it like this. Two people hear a fire alarm. Both of them are startled, and their hearts start pounding. But for one person, the alarm shuts off after 1 minute and their heart rate returns to normal. For the other person, the alarm keeps blaring for an hour. Who is in better shape? The person whose system knows how to turn off the alarm. In this study, religious coping was acting like the off switch for the body's chemical stress alarm. The authors of the study suggest that religious coping acts as a protective buffer against physiological stress responses. It's a shield you might not even feel. It doesn't stop the arrows of worry and anxiety from flying at your mind, but it seems to stop them from physically piercing your body and doing long-term damage. And here's the final, fascinating kicker. Once the exam was over, this protective effect was no longer active. Once the tiger was gone, the cortisol patterns for both groups of students looked the same. This tells us something profound. This isn't about religious people just being biologically calmer in general. It suggests that religious coping is an active strategy that people deploy in the heat of battle to protect their bodies from the physical fallout of a stressful event. It's a shield you pick up when you need it most. Part 4. So, what in the world does this mean for us? This is the part of the story where we have to sit back and just say, whoa, what does this incredible disconnect between the mind and the body actually mean? It means that our feelings are not the whole story. Not even close. You can feel like a total mess, but your coping strategies might be working wonders on a deeper, biological level that you are completely unaware of. You might think your attempts to find comfort are failing because you don't immediately feel better, but you could be wrong. You could be protecting your long-term physical health in a massive way. This study forces us to ask a huge question. How does this work? How can turning to a higher power soothe your body's chemical systems without soothing your conscious mind? The scientists don't have the final answer, but they have theories. Perhaps engaging in religious coping connects you to a sense of meaning, purpose, or a feeling that you're not alone in your struggle. Maybe it provides a sense of ultimate control. Even if you can't control the exam, you believe something or someone bigger is in control. This deep, bedrock sense of security might not be enough to stop you from worrying about a test, but it might be enough to send a powerful, nonverbal message of safety directly to the ancient, primitive parts of your brain that control your hormones. It's like it's bypassing your noisy modern analytical brain and whispering directly to your cells. It's okay. We will get through this. This is a game changer. It suggests that things like faith, spirituality, and finding meaning are not just nice ideas that make us feel good. They can be powerful forms of biological medicine. They can be a fundamental part of our stress management toolkit, working in ways that are invisible, silent, and incredibly profound. Part 5, our final thought. What this entire story truly reveals is a stunning truth about every single one of us, that you are more complex and mysterious than you can ever imagine. We know that there's a silent battle being waged inside you every time you're stressed, and that your feelings are only one small report from the front lines. The most important victory might be the one you never even notice. An act of faith, a quiet prayer, a moment of turning towards something bigger than yourself, might not magically erase your worries, but it could be building an invisible, powerful shield around your very biology, protecting you from the inside out. It's a humbling and awe-inspiring reminder that the things that give us strength and meaning may have a power that goes far beyond our ability to feel it. If this story expanded your mind and gave you a new way to think about your own resilience, then you are officially part of the Summary Thought family. The best way you can support our quest for knowledge is to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe so you never miss another deep dive, and share it with someone whose mind you want to blow. Every single interaction helps our community of curious thinkers grow. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. Until next time, stay curious, ask big questions, and remember, sometimes the most important work is the work that no one, not even you, can see.